This is Darth Matthew, host of the Star Wars Generations and Superhero Ethics podcast, and I find your lack of membership disturbing. You can free yourself from the ads of those rebel scum by going to theethicalpanda.com and clicking join for $5 a month, $55 a year. No more ads, only the episodes, just as the Emperor intended.
Friends, we're only a couple of days from the Mando and Grogu movie going out. By the time this goes up, the movie will be in theaters, and this is the primer that you need. Whether you've seen every episode of The Mandalorian and just to have to brush up on some details, or you are going into this completely blind, this is the podcast episode that get you ready for Mando and Grogu. And I'm here myself, Matthew, with my two co-hosts, Erin and Alex. Folks, we're going to see this movie pretty damn soon. How are we feeling?
I'm so excited. I can't wait to get back to it. It feels like it's been so long since we've had Mando content.
Uh-huh.
And we've had wonderful content in the meantime, but it'll be so fun to see those characters again and get back to it.
Yeah. Alex, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's kind of a weird experience, I feel like, for me. I have been waiting for a new Star Wars movie since 2019. So it's been, obviously we all have been 7 years. And so I'm like really excited to have Star Wars back on the big screen. It's like one of the big favorite experiences in the world is seeing a Star Wars movie for the first time on a big screen. But what's been strange is that like there's been a ton of really good marketing for the movie, and there's been a lot of trailers and stuff out, and I've actually avoided some of the trailers and some other opportunities to see footage because I want to be more surprised. But in general, I know the very basic plot, but I feel like they did a pretty good job not really revealing what all is going to really happen overall in the movie. Like they have hinted at things, they've kind of given you little bits and pieces here, but this is probably the Star Wars movie I'm going into with the least detailed knowledge about, and that kind of excites me because I would get to just like experience this adventure kind of untainted.
No, I totally get that, and that's honestly part of why we're doing this episode today. Folks who've been longtime listeners know that I like to go into things with no spoilers whatsoever, no trailers, and so often I don't do a primer episode because I don't know what's in the trailer, or if I do, I just talk about what's happened before. Part of why I wanted us to do this one is that I did wind up watching the trailer kind of sort of against my will because it was part of another movie I was going to see, but it was awesome. It got me excited, and it didn't actually really tell me that much about what the plot is going to be. So we're going to talk some about what the trailer tells us in terms of characters and stuff like that. We'll talk about that somewhat at the end, but we're going to start by just talking about what's happened in the Mandalorian show, what's happened in some of the other shows or movies that might be relevant. Again, just I'm guessing if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen most of The Mandalorian, but it might have been a couple of years ago. You don't remember it too much, or you might be deciding this is the movie. You're just a movie person. That's great too. We want to get you up to date. So we're going to speed run some of the basics from the show and then really go into stuff about season 3. But let's just kind of start at the beginning. Alex, who's the Mandalorian?
Who is the Mandalorian? Din Djarin is he's played by Pedro Pascal, and essentially he's a foundling, they're called, and basically he was found by other Mandalorians after his parents were killed during the Clone Wars,
right?
And then raised in with this creed, the strict creed, like it's kind of a warrior's code where you don't ever remove your helmet and let anyone see your face. And there's a lot of other rules, but that's kind of the big one. And throughout the multiple seasons and things we get to see Mando kind of grapple with that creed after finding young Grogu, and he has a big long arc as he grows into the warrior we're going to get in this movie.
Yeah, you mentioned that his parents were killed during the Clone Wars. They did something really cool in the show. They made clones they made droids actually look really badass and really scary. And you understand why he has a real problem with droids at the start of the show. And yeah, the Mandalorian lore gets real long and real deep, but just to get in totally speed running it, they're warrior people for many generations. They've often had big beef with the Jedi and have developed armor made out of this thing called Beskar and fighting styles aimed at fighting against the Jedi. There's a dark saber, which is kind of their version of a lightsaber, and whoever wields it shall be the ruler of Mandalore. And one of the things that happened, and this TV show, The Clone Wars, goes into this a lot, is that one part of Mandalorian culture was like, look, we're fighting too much. This is civil war all the time. We got to stop this. We got to end our warrior culture. That was led by a group that was primarily led by Duchess Satine, fantastic character, important to Obi-Wan.
And that was the majority of the planet that went that way.
Exactly, yeah. And then, but a bunch of them kind of broke away and formed what they call Watch. Maybe not so good with the marketing on that term, but there we go. And they went to this moon called Concordia, and they were like, we're going to keep the traditions of the Mandalorians, et cetera, et cetera. Lots of things happened. Maul gets involved and takes over Mandalore. The Empire comes and mostly destroys Mandalore, and the Watch is scattered. And this group gets started called the Children of the Watch. And we don't know if they actually started then or if they broke away a long time ago. But either way, they were, if you think about like any kind of culture in diaspora, like different parts of the culture, when they're all scattered because their home is destroyed or just they're forced to leave, will develop different ideas and different mythologies and different creeds. And so Din Djarin grows up believing this is what all Mandalorians are. And he thinks that you never take the helmet off, that you have to have this very strict warrior creed, but that it's no longer about being a people. It's about being, it is a group, but it's about, as you said, the foundlings, it's adoptees, and they can be people of any races. So he was brought up in Concordia. He goes out into the world, and eventually he finds Grogu. Erin, who's Grogu? Or as we referred to him at first, Baby Yoda.
Boo. I hate the term Baby Yoda.
You don't like Baby Yoda?
I've hated it since it came out. It used to frustrate me so much because he's not Yoda. And so many people were like, oh, it's just Yoda as a baby. I'm like, no, that's wrong. It's just poor marketing. Yeah. And I got really upset about it. I see.
Because people were like confusing the actual timeline rather than just using it
and then
as
they're
a
like,
phrase.
Oh, that's Yoda. And I'm like, no, it's not Yoda. It's a different character. He's the child.
He is a child version. He's a child of Yoda's species.
Yes.
Who is 50 years old, but of a race that can live 900 years or longer. So he is the human. He's the equivalent of a toddler, basically, at the start of the movie, start of the show.
Yeah, like when we first see him, he's in a bassinet. We don't even know if he can really walk around much on his own. And by the end of the show, we see him literally. I mean, he swam, right? Didn't he save Mando at the end?
He swam in the trailer for the movie. I don't think we've seen him swim before that, have we?
Oh, he did something.
He did swim a little bit, but also he could bounce around. He could walk. And
his
force powers,
fire.
Yeah, his force powers have gotten bigger and bigger to the point that he could basically, at the end of season 3, we're gonna have many spoilers for the show, create a sort of ball of safety in the middle of this huge explosion that killed Moff Gideon, but allowed Bo-Katan Kryze and the Mandalorian to live.
He can also heal people. He was our first introduction of force healing. They threw that in there in the episode that came out a week before episode 9, so it wouldn't seem crazy when Rey could do it.
Right. Yeah, so he has some Jedi healing powers, something that they'd gone into a little bit in some Legends books and things like that, but this was the first time it appeared in this version of the canon. Mm-hmm. Other things we know about him is that at first Din Djarin thought that his mission was to return this guy to his his first mission really was to capture him and hand him over to these former Imperials, what are called the Imperial Remnants. He quickly was like, no, you're too cute. I can't do that. And that's how he incurred the wrath of the Imperials and has been fighting them ever since. But also he then saw his job was to take him to the Jedi, who, because he was someone who grew up mostly post Order 66, he just knew as this like weird group of space wizards. Mm-hmm. Went off with Luke Skywalker and then was working with him and with Ahsoka to learn how to be a Jedi. But Grogu eventually decided, nah, I want to be with the Mandalorian instead. And so they've been continually together. And so where do we have Mando and Grogu by the end of season 3 and going into this movie?
I have not seen the end of season 3 recently, but from my memory, they defeated Moff Gideon, they escaped from Mandalore, and Bo-Katan gets the Darksaber and is, the ruler of Mandalore. And it seems like Mando and Grogu just kind of like go off to continue their father-son adventures.
Well, they're given a plot of land on what is the planet?
Navarro.
Navarro. They own a plot of land
That's
on
right,
Navarro,
yeah.
and they like the last thing we see is like the two of them like sitting on the front porch, and Grogu's playing with a frog, and there's super dad son energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a really cute kind of story, and in many ways, it did seem like this could be the end of their story.
Mm-hmm.
But also, Grogu is now officially a foundling. He's officially an apprentice. He's a part of the Mandalorians, and part of Djarin's job now. One thing we learn is that his name is Din Djarin. Apparently, they're one of the kind of types of people where the family name is reversed, because when Grogu becomes part of his clan, he becomes Din Grogu. So apparently Din is like the family name. Doesn't work with Vizslas, but so it's not consistent, but who cares? But yeah. So and the armorer, who is this like super badass pretty much the leader of the Children of the Watch, and who has for the most part been trying to keep the Watch in line, but has also been one of the ones to say we can kind of mellow out somewhat. Bo-Katan, her Mandalorians, they're from a different group. We can all now work together. She had said to Mando, you have to take him off on new adventures as part of Grogu's learning and growing. So I think that's going to be kind of the impetus of where we can go from here. But also, yeah, they all have the chance to be on Navarro. Now, one sad thing is that the High Magistrate, people call him Magistrate, but he always reminds them that he's a High Magistrate, Grief, was the ruler of Navarro, played by legendary actor Carl Weathers, who did pass away 2 years ago. And I think most of the shooting for the movie happened after he died, so I'm guessing he will not be in it. But it also seems like we're going to be leaving Navarro pretty darn quick.
Yeah, it seems like it. I similar to you guys, haven't seen many of the trailers or sneak peeks. I think I saw the initial trailer, and like you, Matthew, I saw one in theaters while watching a different movie. And I didn't recognize any like scenes from Navarro or anything like that. So I think you're right. They probably maybe start there. Maybe it's not even mentioned. We'll see. But I'm excited for this film to see if it's going to be kind of like, isn't it called The Adventures of the Mandalorian and Grogu? Or is it just called
Mandalorian and Grogu, I think.
Yeah, I think that was an early title, but is now just The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Okay. Anyways, so it could just be like fun little adventures, but we are still in that same time period as the Ahsoka show. So Thrawn is hypothetically around because he just wormholed his way back with the Purgles.
Right.
So that could be, a mystery they're keeping from us, is a little touch about Thrawn. And we do see them fighting, like Imperial walkers and stuff like that. So they're still up against the Imperial remnants for sure. It'll just be interesting to see if that's kind of those who are left after Moff Gideon and, that, what was it, the Shadow Collective or something like that? The Dark Council.
I know you're talking about the folks that showed up like in
So let's talk about the Imperial remnants. What's happening with those folks? The Empire had been defeated at the end of Return of the Jedi, and then in books, sort of the last aspects of the Empire were defeated. It was called the Battle of Jakku. And so what's happening with the Empire now? Because this is now being set about 11, 12 years after Return of the Jedi, about 20 years before the story that will kick off with The Force Awakens.
Erin was just saying, Erin, go ahead. Talk about the Shadow Council. What are they?
What are they? Well, they're mysteries. I know they're like, it seems to be like a collective of the most powerful Imperial remnants or like secret Imperial supporters. The Empire's gone. Like the Emperor is, for all purposes, dead. Vader is dead.
Right.
There's no more Death Stars. Like for the most part, the Empire is gone. They do not rule over the world. The New Republic is really trying to get a grip on things these days. But the remnants, there seem to be more and more powerful ones that we aren't aware of yet, that haven't been named or really brought up. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like in the small scene we got with that collective, there was some sort of a reference that kind of alluded to Thrawn, and maybe that was part of their plan.
Yeah, they mentioned that like they were waiting for Thrawn, basically.
Yeah.
Like he was. I think the premise is that he was supposed to come in and like not be the emperor, but be like the seat of power on this council. And
the leader.
Not all of them wanted to wait for Thrawn. All of them believed he was even still alive, but it would make sense if that was if they had kept Thrawn's involvement under wraps this entire time. I would be very impressed.
Yeah. The idea at this point is that they're waiting for Thrawn, but as Alex said, they're not all in agreement to that. There's definitely a lot of infighting among them, but that we see in what they're doing a lot of the seeds that will become the things we learn about in Force Awakens and the sequels. And
the First Order, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And in many ways, for those who grew up with the prequels and have always loved them, I think that's fantastic. I think for a lot of folks in my generations, the prequels, a lot of them felt like kind of disconnected and it was hard to really follow it. And especially the jump from the second movie to the third. And the shows like the Clone Wars and a lot of the other the books and stuff really helped to fill in those gaps. And I think in the same way, Mandalorian's been a big part of trying to fill in that period between the fall of the Empire and then now the First Order and the New Republic and all that. And so some of the kind of seeds that have been planted is one of the Imperial remnants is I think he's a General or Admiral Hux, but he's the no, actually I'm sorry, he's a weapons manufacturer, I believe. So I think he's a citizen, but he's the father of General Hux, who we'll meet in Force Awakens. There's a great little Easter egg for the people who are lovers of the Legends books, some of the original Legends books, the first Thrawn trilogy. His kind of second in command for the most part is a guy named Admiral Pelion, and Pelion is one of the Imperial remnants, so he shows up. And one thing that we learned over the course of Mandalorian is that they're all kind of experimenting with cloning, and that they're trying to figure out how to clone things, and especially can Force ability be cloned. And that's part of why all the Imperial folks want Grogu, is because Moff Gideon especially, but some of the others too, want to see, can you use cloning to create a Force powerful being? And with the implication being that this is all part of what's going to lead to the creation of Snoke and eventually the cloning of Palpatine.
Yeah, it all connects back to, I mean, there's a whole bit in the Star Wars Battlefront video game that talks about Operation Cinder, and part of the Emperor's like contingency plan was basically telling all of his followers, like, it is your job to make sure I come back to life, bro. Like, make sure you clone me. So a lot of them are like, some of them are like, we must follow the Emperor's orders even though he's dead, and others are like, screw that, new Empire time.
Right. Yeah, Moff Gideon, for example, wanted to clone himself with Force powers. So where that was going to fit. And I think one thing we've seen from the prequels is that, one thing we've seen from the trailers is that this is definitely about the New Republic and concerns about a new war starting out.
Yeah, because we see more characters that are related to the New Republic, such as like Garazeb Orrelios. We'll see him. And Sigourney Weaver's new character is part of the New Republic as well. Based on my little Star Wars game that I play, I know some other characters that are going to come back because they're being announced as like upcoming characters.
Don't
so
spoil it for me.
I won't spoil, but there's like a few cameos, I think, or maybe some fun new droid characters we'll get.
So I know you have to leave point, so we'll get into that at the end.
Yeah,
especially because some folks might
using Zeb's Christian name is crazy.
Sorry, I just
Garazeb Orrelios is probably my second favorite character after Hondo from Star Wars animation. We know that he's going to be a big part of this. And one of the things it's important, I think, because I did watch season 3 of The Mandalorian over the last couple of days, just kind of put it all back in my head. I've totally forgotten about Mecha Grogu, that he gets to have a mecha suit out of an old droid companion. Yep. That was awesome. But most importantly, at the end, he goes to one of his friends in the New Republic and basically says, look, I don't want to join you officially. I want to be a bounty hunter, but I will be specifically a bounty hunter for you. I will be hunting down Imperial remnants that the New Republic wants to get, but they kind of have to do sort of off the books. And so that's where we leave him, is that he is definitely no longer just I don't care who the person is, I just want to do the job. He wants to be part of fighting the Imperial remnants and stopping the Empire from coming back, but he's doing it as this independent contractor.
Yeah, it almost, to me, it feels a little bit like Ventress, about like you start in bounty hunting and you're like, let's go. And then you see something fucked up with a kid and you're like, okay, maybe I need to shift gears a little and like find a better way to do this job that still feels okay morally.
Right.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what that looks like, and whether he's a bounty hunter. We saw him kill people all the time. Like, is he still going to be killing people, or is the New Republic going to want them like captured, you know?
He does have a disintegration weapon, and the New Republic, might not be quite as fond of that, but
might not love it.
And the guy who hired him, just I'll throw out there, is Captain Carson Teba, who is he's played by South Korean Canadian actor Paul Sun Hyung Lee.
Mhm.
Is one of the few Asian characters in Star Wars, and so I appreciate them trying to include more folks in this franchise.
Definitely.
That's the character I was mostly talking about for my Star Wars game. Is we'll see him again, I think.
Oh, sure. That makes sense.
And
Yeah.
he's if anyone has seen Kim's Convenience, which is a fantastic Canadian show, he's one of the main stars of that. But yeah, so he's a great actor. He's been a lot of fun. He's been the main one who the Mandalorian has been working with. But now we do get Sigourney Weaver, who at first I thought was supposed to be the main villain of this, but no, it seems like she is going to be, I think, kind of the main representative of the New Republic in this. She's an X-Wing fighter. I think she's an X-Wing pilot. I think she's kind of the leader of a Blue Squadron, which is the squadron that keeps getting talked about. That I think Garazeb Orrelios is also part of. So yeah, that's I think going to be an exciting part of all this.
So much Christian names being thrown around, y'all.
It's just Zeb. I didn't know bothered you that much.
I mean, it doesn't bother. It's just funny to hear because I only ever hear that in Rebels when like Hera's mad at him and she goes, Garazeb Orrelios.
Yeah.
To be clear, we're also using the colloquial. There's no Christianity anywhere in the Star Wars universe.
If there was, Anakin's Jesus, but
I
mean, there's a lot of parallels.
No.
We can't get down the rabbit hole. It'll go too deep.
We'll move on.
Well, moving on. Yeah. So, Alex, why don't you say what else you know about what's happening in the movie, so we know what we kind of talk about with you. And that'll kind of give us an indication of like what's the mild spoilers, and then we'll really do the deep dive Easter eggs after we say goodbye.
How much do you know?
Oh, I've watched all the I decided to do deep dive. I've watched
you know more than me.
Yeah, I've watched all the trailers. I watched all the Easter egg stuff.
Purposely avoided. So there was an opportunity on. I don't know if any of y'all went to the May 4th thing. On May 4th, they showed 25 minutes of movie footage of the movie in theaters, and I chose not to go, which is very unlike me. But I just didn't want. It's like if it's a 2-hour movie, I don't want a quarter of the movie spoiled for me.
Yeah, that's
but I mean, like based on my knowledge from between Celebration and other trailers I have seen, is that basically a couple of things are happening. First of all, Mando is indeed working for the New Republic, trying to, prevent another war, like, kind of helping out fighting against remnants of the Empire. At the same time, from my understanding, the Hutt twins that he pissed off on, or that him and Boba Fett pissed off, I guess, on Tatooine, have a bounty on him.
Those Hutt twins are dead, are they not?
No, they're in the trailers.
No, Boba Fett killed them. I'm looking this up.
Do we talk about the same Hutt twins? The two that are on
there two different Hutt twins?
The two big ones that are on the.
Here, let me.
It's fine. Just keep going.
One of the Hutt, some Hutt had. I'm pretty sure it's those two though. Basically, like want him dead, and
I do know. So can I?
Yeah.
So we have the Hutt twins who are cousins of Jabba the Hutt. Jabba the Hutt obviously was killed in the end of Return of the Jedi, and there's now this kind of big power struggle that's happening in the underworld, and that's a big part of what this movie is definitely going to be talking about. And in a weird kind of a way, it's going to be a callback in a lot of ways, though hopefully not in quality, to the original Clone Wars movie, because the plot of that Clone Wars movie is an attempt by the Separatists to get the Hutts on their side by kidnapping Alex's nom de jour, Stinky little Hutt, the actual name of which is
Rotta.
Thank you. Rotta the Hutt, the son of Jabba the Hutt. In that movie, he's a little baby, and the whole fight is to capture him or save him in order to get the Hutts to be on the side of either the Republic or the Separatists.
Fucking Dooku.
In this one, we know that he is going to be a major character. He's being voiced by Jeremy Allen White of The Bear and Shameless fame.
That's hilarious.
And the Bruce Springsteen biopic. Which I have a lot of strong feelings about the Hutts being voiced, but we'll talk about that in a second. And so we know that there's going to be some kind of shenanigans about, and he's now working as a gladiator. We're going to be spending a lot of time on the planet of Nal Hutta and one of its moons, now Shuda, I think it's pronounced.
I think so.
And doesn't Mando go through a gauntlet fighting a bunch of different monsters?
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of, it looks like we spent some time in the underworld, in the kind of, not the underworld like death, but in like, you know, the crime and that kind of an underworld. There's some gladiatorial type fighting. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in that world.
Which again, how does this all intertwine? They've done a very good job at not really telling us how it all connects. Because like, you can.
It seems like so many. Sorry.
No, you're right. It seems like so many different crazy storylines. Like, to me, it's like, okay, is it an underworld movie? Is this going to be about like him helping the New Republic? Is it like he tries to help the New Republic and gets captured and has to like escape? Does Thrawn play a role? Just there's so many unknowns. And the movie comes out in less than a week. It comes out next Thursday. So, I actually like it's just so the listeners know, we were all seeing it Thursday. I unfortunately had made plans way early to see it with other people. So Erin and Matthew are seeing it together with some of our favorite fans of the podcast. But also, I am not going to be there, which is really sad. But I'm also seeing it on Thursday, so we will be able to talk about it in earnest.
And we haven't exactly scheduled when, but we're definitely going to be doing a reaction, possibly later that night over drinks, which could make things more interesting. Possibly in the next day or two, we will find out. So,
you drunk Star Wars podcast.
Here's one of my few, one of my few complaints. But kind of a like, this is one thing I just have to accept now, but I don't love. One of the things that happened in the original movies is that there was a pretty strong conceit of aliens, for the most part, did not speak English. And I think part of the idea of this was, and this is something Lucas talked about way back in the day, was kind of, if you think about like alien biology and stuff like that we're able to speak English because of the way our vocal and most human languages because of the way the human vocal system is formed. And that, Chewbacca could probably learn to understand English, but just doesn't have the vocal cords. Like, that's not how he speaks. And same with the Hutts and stuff like that. And so all of them spoke other languages, and we use subtitles, and sometimes all the people understood each other. And sometimes you had someone like C-3PO interpreting, things like that. With the Clone Wars and then some of the other stuff that was aimed a little lower, they changed that somewhat in order to have, I think, to make it more accessible for younger audiences.
Yeah, a little more palatable.
Right, exactly. But and some of the younger Hutts definitely could speak English. We had the whole plot with Zero the Hutt and this like kind of weird gangster little story that happens to the Clone Wars that we did a great episode about. Sice Noodles is still the greatest mall that's ever been a mall. In terms of like, a gangster's girlfriend who gets one over.
You're right. I kind of didn't really process ever that Zero speaks English, but all the other Hutts in the Clone Wars still just speak Huttese, except for his mom. So his mom, but Gardula doesn't speak any Basic, and neither do any of the other Hutts.
Right. And yet, I don't think you hired Jeremy Allen White to go. Go ahead.
I have a slight thought. It
can I
could
just add
be
one last thing to that?
absolutely.
We also do, in at least one of the trailers, we hear one of the Hutt twins speaking in English, which it is supposed to be Galactic Basic, to be clear, but obviously we hear it. But so they're not speaking Huttese, at least in that moment.
Yeah.
Go ahead, though.
My thought process I just kind of came up with, it could be because in the original movies, Jabba is the only Hutt we really saw, and he was always in his element, his palace. This is where he rules. People accommodate him. Whereas Zero was very much like kind of the outcast of the family. He was all over the galaxy trying to do this and that, whatever. And so I could see it as like, it would be more useful for him to be fluent in Basic. And it would maybe make more sense that we see him use Basic because he's communicating with so many other species. Whereas it's like if you go and you visit the French palace, people are going to speak French. They might be able to speak English, but they're going to speak French.
Right.
And so I wonder if that's kind of the concept, is like, now that we're seeing Hutts that are more out of their element, maybe they can speak English. And because Huttese is also, it's garbly and it's deep, yes, but it is vocal sounds rather than like clicks or roars or zip zaps, stuff like that. So I think it makes it a little more believable or easy to kind of like, let's just like fudge this.
That is fair. And we certainly have seen humans and others speaking in Huttese. Like,
yes.
Yawa Banta Putu is Huttese. So that's a fair theory. I still like the Huttese language and want them to mostly speak it, but
Yeah, I get that.
I think you've squared the circle for
It
me.
is canon that Leia speaks a little bit of Huttese.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
It's crazy.
What else? Let's talk about Garazeb Orrelios. Who is he?
Garazeb Orrelios is one of the main characters in the animated series Star Wars Rebels. He's one of the main members of the Ghost Squadron, the Ghost Crew that we see throughout that show. He's basically he's a Lasat, and it's these large purple creatures, very tall, kind of hunched over. He almost looks like a cross between like a large gorilla and a tiger of some kind.
And I think oftentimes they're spoken of in a similar menace, but just like toned down 10 degrees from like a Wookiee or a Trandoshan.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have a long history of we have an honor guard, and Garazeb Orrelios was a captain in the honor guard and was a really well-regarded individual on the planet. The planet the species was thought to have been wiped out by the Empire. We later learned in Rebels that no, some of them did escape, and the civilization continued on a hidden planet called Lyra's Sun. And so Zeb basically, he discovered that his planet was still there, but chose to stay with his crew and keep working to fight the Empire. After the fall of the Empire, the only deep information we know is that he did join the New Republic and is a fighting pilot and warrior and member of the New Republic, still fighting the Empire, or the remnants of the Empire now, I guess.
Yeah,
I think that's right. He's
Kind of
just
British accent.
He's a wonderful character. In a lot of ways, they're kind of it's not exactly the same, but I think both the Mandalorians and the Lasat both share a lot of sort of cultural identity with the Klingons from Star Trek, in terms of that kind of like a warrior people who are very defined by that and have kind of strict warrior codes and things like that. And he really has a wonderful story of all the hate that he has towards the Empire. And there's this great story in Rebels with him and a guy who was really responsible for the destruction of the destruction of his home planet, coming to understand each other and like seeing more of that guy's story. That's not quite as what it seems. It is canonically a love story between the two of them, and so I kind of hope they're not cowards and will acknowledge that. But we will see if they actually, because that is also a guy, but we'll see if they do that. But either way, he's just a fantastic character who I was always worried would be hard to animate, hard to turn into real life without him seeming cartoonish. But all the clips I've seen, he looks fantastic.
So good. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that it's been like, almost 10 years since Rebels came out. I'm glad they didn't try to rush something like that into live action, because he would not look as good 8 years ago or whenever like Rebels first came out. So I'm excited.
Rebels was released in 2014.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Bro, I'm so old.
So here's one other cool little detail. Alex, do you mind if I give you a spoiler that's of a cameo that just is kind of cool given the meta story around Star Wars?
Okay, go ahead and tell me.
A number of years ago, you may remember that there was this whole slew of directors who were really shitting on Star Wars and talking about the MCU and Star Wars and how they just weren't real movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it was more like theme park rides. I think it was a quote by Martin Scorsese. And at the time, Martin Scorsese was, there was a movie that I think was kind of autobiographical about him that he was really pushing called Hugo. I don't know what happened, but Martin Scorsese is in this movie.
That's hilarious.
Voicing a character named Hugo. So to me, that's a real, like, if you can't beat him, join him. Like somewhere along the way, someone convinced Marty Scorsese that, you know what, Star Wars isn't that bad, and maybe you could even like have fun and be in the movie. Now it might be as Han Solo actor Harrison Ford would say, that's what the money's for. I don't think Scorsese needs money, but
probably not.
I just think it's kind of awesome that he's in it.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, Alex, what are other characters or story beats that you know about from what you've seen?
Not a ton. I mean, I do know I did get to see that one scene at Star Wars Celebration. Got to see the entire scene, which I think now there's been clips released to the public of Mando's version of a hallway scene, basically on the AT-AT on the snowy planet, as he just like wrecks an entire detachment of Imperial stormtroopers and like just destroys the AT-AT. Like without anyone getting him or Grogu getting hurt, and it's very badass. So I know that he's fighting the Empire, or again, the remnants of the Empire actively on other planets.
Yep. Yeah. So we're gonna see where that goes.
What do you know, Matthew?
Well, again, I think
They know so much.
I can take my headphones off again.
Yeah, I think let's wrap up. It's about time we you to get going anyway. So we'll just kind of so I'll do this. Hold on.
This is so odd that Matthew knows more than I do about a movie before it comes out. I'm
this
very
is
out of my depth here.
crazy.
I know. I decided to do a deep dive.
And I decided to not, which is weird for me.
But in part, it's because I don't know anything about the plot. I just know like some of the
same.
And to me, the point of the primer is to kind of fill people in on things. So, Alex, the only other stuff I'm going to have is not plot related, but is about characters who are showing up. So, I think you don't want to hear that. So I'd say, why don't you just kind of give us your last thoughts on how you're feeling about this before we will show you the exit, and then Erin and I can talk about some of the last stuff before we wrap up.
Erin's like, I'm listening to whatever. All I'll say is I'm super excited. I have tickets to see it, as soon as possible on Thursday. And I also have tickets to see it first thing Friday morning in Dolby Vision Thursday, IMAX Friday, to just really try and get all the experiences I can right away. It would not surprise me if I saw it for a third time in the same weekend, honestly. But I'm just so happy we finally have Star Wars back on the big screen. I really hope that people show up for this movie because I want Lucasfilm to get back to releasing films. I don't need one every year, like they were trying to do for a while, but like once every 2 or 3 years, it'd be nice to get a new Star Wars movie out on the big screen and be able to sit and enjoy it. And I think if this does well, there's potential for the first animated Star Wars movie to be on the big screen. Would be really cool to see, or continuation of Ahsoka or something else. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really excited to see. I mean, these characters have been with us since 2020. Disney Plus launched with them. We were introduced to them during the pandemic, and it's cool to finally get to see them, on the big screen and be, the first big release in such a long time. So I am hype. And if there's not a reference to Rotta the Hutt being stinky, I will riot.
Okay, so we had a whole discussion earlier about how we don't need to nitpick when one of us gets details a little bit wrong. And I was debating whether to pick this particular nit. Hold on. I was debating whether to pick this particular nit, except you specifically referenced something. You talked about how it'd be great to get an animated Star Wars movie on screen. We had an animated Star Wars movie.
No, we had the Clone Wars movie on TV, though. Did it go in theaters?
It was in theaters.
Oh, I don't think I knew
That's where stinky comes from. That's one of the reasons I'm laughing about this, because you just specifically quoted it. But yes, it was not very good, though. It did not last very long in theaters.
I thought it was I thought it was one of those direct to TV release movies.
It may be that it was later released to theaters, but it definitely was.
I'm not doubting you. I just had no idea that it was in theaters at any point.
I'm pretty sure it was theaters for a little while.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I can remember it. And remember
what a horrible movie to be released in theaters.
It was Star Wars. So
okay, so then I would just say then maybe our first good Star Wars animated movie to be released in theaters. No offense to our Ahsoka lover, that was the first introduction of Ahsoka. I love Ahsoka.
Guys,
calm down. Is that really the Ahsoka version you love? The movie, the Clone Wars movie version?
Yeah, she's an icon, and she is the moment. She snuck Rotta into the Hutt place. What's it called? Jabba's palace. There we go.
Palace.
The palace.
Place and palace have one letter difference.
Yes. Also, just real quick, speaking of that movie, I recently saw a video that compared the lightsaber fight between Anakin and Dooku to the most recent fights in the mall show, and it's just crazy how far the animation style has come, especially for the fighting scenes. So I do hope we get another cartoon movie in theaters, because that would be great to see. Like I told my brother last night, I was like, Maul is like a major motion picture. I need to see this level of stuff on a screen, like a big,
Well, and especially because I'll admit, it's one thing I'm excited for this movie about is this will be one of only a few Star Wars movies that, as far as I can tell, probably he's not going to have a lightsaber battle, because we know that Grogu is a Force user. Maybe he gets a lightsaber by the end of this movie, but I really hope not. Like that shouldn't be that he's developing as a Mandalorian, not as a Jedi.
Yeah.
I could kind of see Ahsoka or Luke Skywalker showing up, or maybe even Ezra showing up in this movie. I do know they're getting ready for Ahsoka season 2. I hope this doesn't go the way of the MCU, where it feels like they kind of stuff in some promos for that show. But at this point, there are no dark side Force users who are our enemies. So I think we're not really going to get anything like that, and I'm excited about that.
I guess
no one who wields a saber, maybe.
Well, no, I mean, technically, we have Balin, Skull, and Shin, but they're not in this galaxy right now.
Yeah,
right, yeah, they're not connected to this world.
They're in the universe. They're out there, but they're not involved. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Before I go, I'm gonna embarrass Erin and tell our listeners that Erin just had her pinning ceremony last night for being a nurse, and we would all, like Matthew and I, I'm sure both, congratulate her on. She worked her ass off in school, and so she should be very proud of that.
Yep.
Thank you, Alex.
So now we have a nurse on Star Wars. If any of us are struggling with any medical issues live on air, Erin can try and talk us through it.
Don't.
She's shaking her head. Do not hope. She does not want us.
A nurse who I
that.
believe is specializing in mental health. So, which Alex, both you and I need a great deal of help with. So
fair. So fair. Uncalled for, but so fair.
Thank you for that. I was going to do it in my final sign off, but it's good you brought it up now.
Anyway,
so you're still here. So, Erin has been wonderful to continue doing this podcast while dealing with nursing school and dealing with work, all sorts of stuff like that. Now that she's a nurse, as we all know, her schedule is going to get much easier. So it's going to be really easy for her to be a part of this podcast because nurses are one of the most vacation, stress-free professions in America today. So, but yeah, Erin, serious congratulations. You worked your damn ass off in school. Well done. And even managed to go through all the celebrations and be sober enough and not hungover enough to be part of this production today, which apparently was somewhat in doubt. So,
and Matthew, we have a mental health nurse who supports Anakin Skywalker.
Hey.
Oh, we are so far from that conversation.
This would have to be its own episode.
Yeah. I acknowledge
I can mediate like that.
We can look at a person's crimes and also say that the mental health system failed them, and that Anakin Skywalker was utterly failed by the lack of a mental health system in the Jedi Academy.
Tune in for a future podcast at some point about the mental health of Anakin Skywalker and how he was failed by the Jedi.
And also was a dude bro fuckboy who completely manipulated Padme. Anyway.
Because he was manipulated by an even eviler man. Even more evil. More evil.
Okay.
We'll see.
There we go.
Oh, bye, Alex.
It's my new favorite way to end that conversation. Anyway, Erin, the one other big spoiler I wanted to talk about is, do you remember who it is who calls Grogu bad baby?
Bad baby.
The Anzellans.
Yeah, the little guys.
Yeah, the little guys. Babu Freak, if people remember from The Rise of Skywalker, small little guy who was speaks in a funny voice, is kind of comic entertainment, but they're really good with droids. They're really good at repairing things. Him and his group of people are going to be part of this movie. I don't know if he specifically, but the Anzellans, because I guess he's actually 20 years later, but that group of people, and they're going to be very involved in this movie, and so I'm super excited for that.
Alex just texted he wants to come back and say his final line.
No, he lost that right with fine. Hold on.
Coming over for my final line.
Okay, Alex. So Alex wants to say one last final thing. I will just say, because actually we just did the only real other big spoiler that I had. So Erin, do you have any other big spoilers?
Do I have any big spoilers?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I know very little. I've been studying.
Okay. No, that's fair. So, okay. So, and not all of us are going to know everything going into this movie. So I hope this gives you primed. If you have more questions, let us know. Throw them at us. You can contact me, Matthew, at theethicalpanda.com. You can find all of our social media at theethicalpanda.com. Throw us questions. We've got a week before. Well, this will come out the day of the movie, but tell us your reactions. Send us emails. Let us know what you think. We'll include all of that on a reactions podcast coming out soon after the movie. So I will let Erin and Alex each say their sign out lines, but on behalf of myself, thank you all so much for being a part of it. Stay classy, Nil Hutta.
That's what I was going to say. I'm saying it anyway. Stay classy, Nil Hutta. Stole my
Stay
line.
classier now,
Cuts
Hutt.
me out. Steals my line.
This is the way.
This is the way.
I need a human.